Thank you. Am I on? Yes, excellent. Hello, everyone. I'm really enjoying today, so I'm really grateful to be here. Thanks for inviting me and everybody that I've met so far. Just great to have you all here. So thank you for sticking around for my bit. It's a bit experimental, so it's not what I normally do. But because positive psychologists are such a lovely bunch, I'm hoping that you're going to run with me on this. So I'm thinking about writing a book, but I'm not sure. So what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the things that I'm really passionate about and things that I believe are going to kind of help us do great things in the world. And I'm just going to read some very draft chapter ideas to you. And I just want you to go with me, open your minds and see what you feel. And then in your feedback you can say, or preferably, yeah, that'd be really good, I'd buy that. Okay, is everybody up for that? Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so I don't know how to use this. Let me turn it around. There we go. Mental health. So do you know what the research states in terms of figures of how many people suffer from mental health? 1 in 4? We heard that? Yeah. It's actually 1 in 1. And what I mean by that is we all have mental health. Just as we all have a physical body, we all have a mind and a mental body too. And just as our physical body ebbs and flows in terms of its wellness, and we're better or worse at different times physically, our mental health goes through exactly that same process through our lives. So nobody is immune from mental health. This is for all of us. For every 20 people who are suffering with mental health difficulties and calling sick to work, how many people do you think tell the truth? 1. 1 person in 20 feels like they can tell their manager that they are suffering, can't come into work because of their mental health. So it's always a physical excuse because it's easy to talk about it. And there's 1 suicide every 40 seconds in the world. In the UK, where I'm from, there's 1 suicide every 2 hours. The main causes are stigma around mental ill health and people not feeling able to tell somebody how they're really feeling, honestly. So who's with me in changing some of this? Right, good, okay. Thank you. So what's the solution? These are all my pictures, by the way. That's me on a bike with my late pen pal, Edna. So we need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about it the way we talk about physical health. We need to open up. We need to be seen. We need to be strong in our vulnerability. We need to show up as who we truly are and what we're going through. We need to slow down. We need to recognize and notice what's going on for us, and we need to help each other. We can all be part of this solution. So a global culture shift starts with us. So everybody in this room can do something about this. I believe it begins with being authentically and simply human. And that's what my maybe book is going to be about. Okay, so let's delve into some of these draft chapters. So I've spent the last 10 years researching positive psychology and practicing positive psychology and trying out lots of different ways that we can improve our mental health, no matter who we are or where we are or what we've got going on in our lives. And I'm really excited to tell you what I found out. My only hope is that it inspires you and that you can make maybe 1 small change in your lives from today. And that's what I would write about in my book. I'd want it to be a positive impact for people. So that for me would be amazing, and that's why I'm here. What I realized over the last 10 years is that taking care of our mental health doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to take lots of time. It doesn't have to cost money. And quite the opposite, actually. It can be free. It can be enjoyable even, and we can make it a part of our daily lives, really simply. So I came to the conclusion that there's a set of human traits and emotions that occur naturally within us all, so it's accessible to everyone. Everyone in this room has them. And we can cultivate these to improve the happiness for us and our satisfaction with our own lives. So that sounds great, right? We can do this. Nice. So I'd like you to open your minds and be as accepting as you possibly can and willing, and hopefully just some of this might resonate with you. So let me start with one of the first things that I realized had an impact on my own mental health. And this might be, I don't know, maybe it will be chapter 1. Who knows? Gratitude. That's me in a yoga surf retreat. I did better at the yogiing than the surfing, I'll admit. But so can you think now of one thing that you're really grateful for today in your life, something that is a positive and that you're just thankful to have? Okay. I love that. Some sighs, some smiles, some closing of eyes. How often do you spend thinking about these types of things versus the time you spend thinking about things you don't have or comparing yourself to what others do have, for example? Probably a lot less. But neuropsychological studies show us that the information we feed into our brains has an impact on how our brains function going forwards. So brains function like muscles. So we can train a muscle to do more of what we want and what we like. We can do the same with our brains, with positive thoughts. So positive thinking literally changes our brains. If we think more positively on purpose, then our brains, clever as they are, they're also a little bit silly, so we can fool our brains into more positive cognition naturally. So our brains become more positive environments. Our worlds appear to become better, because that's the input we're putting into our brain, into our minds, into our lives. So let me give you an example. Have you ever focused on the one thing that went wrong in your day, even though everything else went kind of okay or pretty well? But at the end of the day, that one thing went wrong and that's all you can think about, whirring around in your mind. Or how about when you made a mistake or failed at something you just mentioned, and you're ruminating about it. And maybe you might have those negative thoughts and say things like, "Oh, you're such an idiot." No self-compassion. "I can't believe you did that. What's wrong with you?" We talk to ourselves really negatively. How about if we switched those self-statements to things like, "Okay, you didn't do what you wanted to then, but it was your best effort." Or, "That might not have gone particularly well, but you're still a good person." Imagine the impact if we were to change all of those negatives into positives. So literally replace the negatives with the positives. And how about focusing on the good things that happen in our days? This is a really easy and simple strategy that Seligman talks about, 3 good things exercise. And it's fantastic. Just noticing what's good in our lives. With gratitude, noticing what we can be thankful for. So every morning I get up and I say, or I write down, or I tell somebody about 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that sets me up for a better day. And it doesn't matter how small those things are, because every good thing is significant. Every good thing is significant. So cultivating a brain full of gratitude is one of the single most significant and powerful things that we can actually do and commit to in order to live a happier, more pleasurable life. So give it a try, see what reactions you get. One thing's for certain, though, your brain will be taking note, whatever information you're putting into it. So thinking about what we're grateful for leads me nicely on to the second human trait that I've found over the past many years working with people has a really kind of positive impact on well-being. And this ties in nicely with some of the things that have been talked about today, and that's connection. And I see connection as having these 3 components, so connection with others, connection with ourselves, and having that connection with our environments and the wider world around us. It's when we stop and think about others and think about that big wide world, when we step outside our own bubble that we live in all the time, that we're blinkered with, that we generate more empathy, more compassion, more kindness, and a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in our own lives. So humans are social beings, and by that I don't mean that we all like to go out and party all the time, some of us do, but I just mean that we get so much out of relationships, out of hobbies, out of support networks, out of being in a group. Research says that simply having one person that we feel able to confide in and truly be ourselves with is vital to our long-term mental health. So when people are truly allowed to be themselves, happiness increases. It's as simple as that. But what's so important about connecting with the environment? Well, without nature, we cease to live. But how often do we really connect with it, really? And can we do that more? And it's really simple to do. Nature's shown to be healing. It inspires us to balance our work and personal lives. It reduces stress and burnout. And we're really fortunate because the world is there for us whenever we need it. For that reason, I'm really glad that we're working on ways to look after our planet, so reducing plastics, recycling, reducing carbon footprints, use of aerosols, saving paper, energy, water, cleaning the oceans. We're really driving now to look after our wonderful planet because it's there for us and we can use it to help de-stress, increase parasympathetic nervous system activation, vagal system, all those lovely things we're talking about today. There's no excuse. So I believe that cultivating deeper connections will create a wider movement to a better world, full of people who feel like they're in it together for the long run. And that could start with us. A shift away from living just in those independent bubbles that we find ourselves in, and towards appreciating and behaving for the greater good. This is what I think is so important. It begins with us, then it spreads to our communities, and then more globally. So that's what I hope for in the future. We can all do something about this. We all have just as much power as any of the politicians or any of the leaders out there to make these changes. We really do. That said, it is really healthy also, when done well, to spend time on our own, if we're so inclined, because we can slow down, do less, especially if we can stop rushing around and focus away from a growing to-do list and those racing thoughts. Taking a few minutes to be still and quiet every day is actually really beneficial, whether it's full-blown meditation or just being. So being in nature, being with whatever it is that you're comfortable being with. Quality time alone can help us work out what's really important to us and help us work on our values and how we want to live our lives, of course. So once we know this, we can start taking steps to our day-to-day improvement. After all, as an American author known for her poetry and prose, I don't know whether you've come across her, Annie Dillard, beautifully put it, how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. So there's another human emotion that I want to talk about that also has quite a profound impact, and we can use it to connect, and it's out there, just waiting for us. I don't think we talk about it enough. Or, people are smiling at my photo, it's lovely. So there's a word that's perhaps overused, and that word, probably said better by an American than me, but it's awesome. Do any of the Americans in the room want to just shout that out for me? Yeah, thank you. It sounds so much better when you say it. But it's perhaps overused because we say it all the time. But the definition of it is a feeling of great admiration or respect, sometimes coupled with surprise. It can literally stop us in our tracks, and there's a reason for that. Whether it be that you've just arrived at the top of a mountain or beneath a waterfall, watching a sunset or sunrise, or basking in the sea, in moonlight, or under a sky full of stars in the middle of nowhere. Having those moments of awe benefits our well-being hugely. And not only that, but research shows that spending just 2 hours a week in nature boosts our serotonin and oxytocin levels, those happy hormones. So the key is to immerse yourself and be mindful. So let nature and finding awe be the goal and nothing else. So that is your only focus. Sorry? Because there's something about humans that when you're just in this kind of state of just immersing yourself and not doing anything else, and you're in a natural environment, we are actually supposed to spend more time in nature than we do these days. Your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your safe, calm, I'm okay, I don't have really anything to worry or stress about system, kicks in. And that releases those oxytocin, cuddle, love hormone chemicals, and serotonin, which are the happy hormones. So it's kind of an unavoidable, natural, wonderful thing. Well, maybe not quickly, but if the more time you spend, yeah, definitely. But humans it's a good point, because we are supposed to spend more time outside than we do. And with the rise in technology and science and materialism, which of course have their place, we're actually not spending as much time outside as we need to. So I'd urge you to step away from your screens and find a nice expansive view. There's research that says people benefit health-wise in hospitals if they have a window and things like that. It's just kind of a natural human instinct, I guess. So it's feeling a connection to something bigger than our own bubble, as I said before, getting out there and connecting. And if you make a conscious effort to do this, it'll undoubtedly have a positive impact on you. So do you know what the best part about this is? I've alluded to it before. It's free, it's everywhere, and it's accessible to us all. We don't have to try that hard to find it. We don't have to go to Canada. Outside. I was looking at the windows before, and there's leaves against the windows, and that's beautiful. We don't have to go far to find this. People can also be awe-inspiring. It's not all about magnificent scenes. Every individual is amazing in their own right. Sometimes we just need to spend more time and listen to really find that in another human being. But if we do that, we can find that humans literally are awesome. And can you think now, just conjure up a person or a time when you felt really inspired, or that deep admiration or respect for someone? Might be a child or a partner or a great speaker or something that you've heard on a TED Talk or on TV. So I'm a huge fan, if you haven't guessed, of utilizing anything we've got a natural abundance of to help us feel good and to help us to do good for the planet. So 2 things we have at our disposal, for want of a better word, are nature and people. We've got lots of people around us, we've got nature around us pretty much all the time. So we can use those 2 things to enhance our environments and enhance ourselves. Well-being of us and well-being of the planet. So, as I said in the beginning, it was the work that I was doing and researching and practicing positive psychology that brought me to this conclusion that mental well-being is to cultivate these kind of natural human traits, and I think they go hand in hand. So I've talked about gratitude, connection, and awe, and now I just want to talk about something that some of us still struggle a little bit with, but I think is so very important. Time check. Vulnerability. I survived. I'm here. Interesting words and images are conjured up when we think of vulnerability, but it's the state of being exposed. It's deemed in society as a negative, but it's actually a strength. It's immensely underrated. It's actually one of the most beautiful assets that we have as humans. Why? We inspire and connect with others when we're vulnerable. It helps facilitate meaningful and long-lasting relationships. Because showing vulnerability lets others know that we are safe, we're trustworthy, and we're going to cause no harm. And it also allows us to be open about our own emotions. We can show up truly as ourselves and be honest about who we are. And there's no better feeling than that. When animals want to play or communicate that they're not a threat, they often show their bellies or their necks, which you might have seen if anybody has a cat or dog or anything like that. These are vulnerable body parts. Thank you for the illustration. These are vulnerable body parts, and if they are exposed, if they're damaged or attacked, it can be fatal. So it's a wonderful thing when this happens, but as humans, we're told to stand tall, be strong, make yourself look bigger, don't let them see your weakness. And this is horrendous because I understand it's got its place, but day to day and just cultivating kindness and relationships and our own well-being and the well-being of others, it's not powerful or helpful. Every human walking the earth knows that they have weaknesses. And every human being knows of their mortality. We've all felt afraid. We've all felt exposed, embarrassed, silly. We've all failed, been hurt, felt judged. There's nothing wrong or bad about these feelings. They're normal, unavoidable parts of life. So imagine if they were seen as okay, or good, or dare I say, celebrated. To put ourselves out there and be vulnerable opens us up to new opportunities. We truly show up in the world. People see us for who we are. Think about your closest relationships. I bet that you're close to each other because you've shown or talk about or express your vulnerabilities honestly between you. So when our mental health's having a dip, and as we've established, everybody has mental health, it's one in one, so we'll all have dips at times. Talk about it, let it be known, be vulnerable. You'll be surprised at the acceptance that you receive, and I've lost count of the amount of people therapeutically that have told me, I never used to talk about my emotions, but when I did, other people started to open up, and I realized I wasn't alone. There's nothing more powerful than that feeling. If I'm honest with you, I'm feeling slightly vulnerable now, because I'm here on a stage, and it's getting towards the afternoon of the first day, and there's been some really inspirational people with very wonderful brains and presentations, and what I'm talking about is what I'm passionate about. But I'm really aware that you might be looking at me thinking, this is a bit romantic or impractical, or you're bored, or you think I'm a little bit crazy, or you're looking at these silly pictures of me thinking, I didn't come here to see Vic diving with sharks, weirdo. But I do it anyway. And the reason that I do it is this last human trait that I want to talk to you about, and I think it's the most important of all. And it's authenticity. One of my favorite authors and most inspirational people I've ever come across, Brené Brown, defines authenticity as the daily practice of letting go who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we actually are. I'm only just beginning to have the courage to do this. It's not always easy. It's still scary at times. Elizabeth Lesser, so co-founder of one of the largest health and education centers in the USA, rightfully pointed out that all human beings, even the Dalai Lama, who's possibly the most peaceful meditator on the planet, have anxieties, fears, problems, bad relationships. Nobody has it perfectly sorted. So the aim then for me isn't to become perfect. The aim is to become authentic. Everyone else's lives on social media seems idyllic, right? Makes us compare and feel bad. But what we're comparing to isn't actually reality. Another reason to step away from the screens, perhaps. So this is all about being real, honest, and genuine, which might seem really simple or obvious, but more often than we like, we tend to put on a show, and we do behave in ways that aren't quite in line with how we really feel. And that doesn't mean we're cheats or bad people or liars. It just means that we've been brought up in a world of expectations, of social norms, stigma, and consequences. But my hope is that we can be more authentic about our mental health, at least, break down those barriers and be true to ourselves and others. We can be positive role models here today. We can leave this room and we can start this process. We can show other people that it's okay to be ourselves, it's okay to be a little bit different, and it's okay not to be okay at times too. We don't get to choose everything that happens to us. Tough emotions are part of our contract with life. The good and the bad, that's the deal. So people sometimes say they don't want the negative stuff that happens. They don't want the fear. They're scared of being hurt. They don't try because they might make a fool of themselves or be disappointed. A bit like me wondering what to talk about today and switching relatively last minute from what I'm very used to and comfortable with to talk to you about something a little bit different. It's understandable to edge away from those fears, of course, but as Susan David, she was the lady who coined the term emotional agility, she put it very well. These are dead people's goals. Brené Brown again, my favorite, says that the only way to avoid blame, shame, judgment, and disappointment is to say nothing, do nothing, see no one, and go nowhere. So it's up to you, your choice. So positive and negative emotions, as we've established today earlier, they both have their place. Has anyone seen the Pixar film Inside Out? The little girl Riley shows us through her experiences that sadness and joy coupled together make for a really well-rounded lifetime experience. How constantly trying to push sadness away with joy can actually be a negative thing. All of our emotions are genuine and real. If they're authentic, it's a part of us, and we need to let them show. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it when people describe me as an up person, fun, a joy to be around, positive, radiating that sunshine. But my revelation through my own personal experiences have been that I also love being raw and real. And sometimes that means I'm not so fun, and I'm not okay, and I'm a little bit down. And these are two sides of the same coin for me, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive. We can live with the up and the down and still be okay and live a good life. It depends how we understand it and how we move forwards through it. Have I got a couple of minutes still? Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to write. Perfect. So a little while ago, I posted on social media a man playing the piano at St. Pancras train station in London, and his bike was set against the piano. He'd still got his work backpack on his back, and he'd just stopped during his work shift to play Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata in an incredibly unique fashion. He was sitting on the piano stool, throwing himself around, and he was beatboxing at the same time. The music and himself were just completely connected. And I dare say that most of us, maybe not the extreme extroverts, but most of us in the room would shy away from this for fear of embarrassment and judgment. But nobody thought he looked like a fool that day. Strangers smiled at strangers. Crowds gathered and watched in awe at this man who nobody knew, but he was simply expressing himself authentically and rawly in public. Everyone loved it. That video got 34,000 views last time I checked, and an abundance of positive comments about courage, showing up as yourself, and expression. So we want it, so let's do it. We can all do this. If I give you just one piece of advice today, it would be this. Do whatever you do wholeheartedly and authentically. That way, if you do nothing else, then at the very least you'll be living a life that's true to yourself and attract people and things that are in line with who you are, and what more could you need? So who am I to tell you this? I was gutted that I was chosen to be Donna because I wanted to be Vixen, obviously because of my name. I'm not really anybody to tell you this. I'm just somebody who hopes that it makes a positive difference and believes that it can. So what does it mean to you? Well, that's up to you to decide. Take away whatever message resonates with you and forget the rest. Make a small change in your life, and that will be good enough for me. So a bit about me, in case it's not glaringly obvious from my photographs. I'm a humanitarian, a nature lover, and I'm an explorer. My passions are well-being of people and well-being of the planet. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I specialize in positive psychology. I'm an independent consultant to individuals and organizations with mental well-being and happiness as my focus. I like to be real. I like people to feel good. I like helping them to feel good. I've got things wrong. I've had some dark moments. I've felt regret and shame. I have vulnerabilities and scars which I've struggled with and still struggle with. I believe in the good of humanity, making the world a better place, and I see great value in hope, connection, authenticity, kindness, compassion. Difficult times and living a good life go hand in hand if we accept it all as part of our agreement with life and be truly wildly and wonderful ourselves. Thank you for listening to what may be a book someday and for giving me your time, which is our most precious commodity, and I'm very grateful and in awe of you all. The end.